Hello. So today I'm going to take a break from bitching about things I don't like to talk about Uzumaki by Junji Ito, which, spoiler alert, I did really like. It is a horror manga that was printed, I believe, in the late 90s originally. Yeah, and it's actually 3 volumes, but like it's been bound into this nice big volume. I'll start off with just like the basic premise, which is the back here. Spirals. This town is contaminated with spirals. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounce any of these names. I'm trying my best. Kurozucho, a small fog-bound town on the coast of Japan, is cursed. According to Shuichi Saito, the withdrawn boyfriend of teenager Kiri Goshima, their town is haunted not by a person or being, but a pattern. Uzumaki, the spiral, the hypnotic secret shape of the world. This bizarre masterpiece of horror manga is now available in a single volume. Fall into a whirlpool of terror. It follows Kiri Goshima, the girl. And I'll just say this. Get yourself a man like Shuichi. He is like, he knows what's going on. He's a great character. I've seen people make comments in like other YouTube videos talking about Junji Ito's work that he's not super big on like character development or just in developing characters in general. His characters are a means of portraying the horror, of showing us the horror. So his characters are generally fairly blank in terms of personality, with the intention that they are that audience stand-in. That's just what I've read. There are people that know way more about this stuff, that study this stuff. That's just a thing that I've seen people say. But I would agree, just from my own reading, Kiri is not a particularly interesting character on her own. Like, the most interesting things about her is like what's happening to her and how she handles them, but she handles them in a pretty generic way you'd expect kind of the audience stand-in to react to things, especially because she reacts in the way I think I would react to a lot of it, you know. Her boyfriend, Shuichi, is like pretty great, actually. He's one of the first people to like really think that something really weird's going on and the town is a spiral, and he ends up being right. Like, he fully knows what he's talking about, even though everybody else kind of dismisses him as kind of crazy. And I do appreciate that he and Kiri, and here, spoilers, he and Kiri really stay together until the end. And she, although she thinks he's, you know, something might be wrong with him, she never gives up on him, you know, and he doesn't give up on her at any point. And I think that's actually like kind of cute and special. But that's honestly like the extent of the characterization for the most part. Like, there's a little bit here and there with different characters, but since a lot of them die horribly, like they're introduced in one chapter and die the next, with, you know, some notable exceptions, it's pretty, you know, flat characterization. But where the horror is so not over the top, but it definitely is always there and always apparent, I don't think you necessarily need deep characters in order to get the story across. Once again, because they feel like audience stand-ins, you put yourself in Kiri's shoes and you go, oh god, this is scary. Something else I really liked, so Junji Ito is known for his really, really intricate drawings and illustrations, to the point I've heard somebody say he apparently, like, the bigger panels will spend like days on them or something like that, just to get them like totally perfect. That dedication to his art really, really shows. Like, I'll just pick a random page from the Lighthouse chapter. Like, look at that. That is incredible. Like, the detail, every one of those little lines was done by hand. Like, it's just, his art is incredible and I love it. A lot of it is really, really scary. Like, there's a lot more, and a lot of the horror for this is kind of psychological, but there are some, like, there's quite a lot of body horror as well, and some of the body horror is really, really effective because he is just such a talented artist. The best example and the thing that freaked me out the most in the hospital, like the second hospital chapter, the umbilical cord, where they talk about the baby wanting to go back in the mom, and fair warning, this is graphic. There's that, like, that's terrifying, right? And that was the kind of thing, it was just so fascinating to look at, and you wanted to look at it, but you wanted to look away because it's creepy, and he just does such a great job. This is another one that, like, it's a little bit less body horror, but it's still real fucking creepy. Like, these panels here, right? Like, it's just brilliantly done, and I loved it. Like, it's incredibly visceral is probably a good word for it, and I just found that I enjoyed myself so much the entire time I was reading this. Another thing I liked, going back to like his art style as well, there's this cool thing, and I'm sure many other people have pointed this out, but I thought it was cool, is that you can see spirals like in the background of different images, and it goes from something really subtle in the beginning to being very overt in later chapters. So a good example, like in this frame really early on, just as Kiri is like walking home, you can see there's like little spirals, but just a couple in like the grass, and by the end that same grass is absolutely filled with spirals. Like there's nothing but spirals in that grass, and I just think it's a really cool slow progression kind of in the background that could be very easily overlooked but is subconsciously there, right? I'll be honest, there's nothing I directly disliked. I really have nothing but praise for this. The only thing I will say, and I think this wasn't necessarily meant to be scary, but it's a little bit like the longer you think about it, the more like maybe psychological. The hair fight is pretty funny. Like the two girls just going after each other like with their hair and like fighting is quite funny, and I'm not sure if it was necessarily meant to even be scary, because it's definitely not, but it is kind of funny. And I liked it. I still liked that chapter, but it's a little more like, oh my god, what is going on? Another chapter that is kind of earlier on, but like a lot creepier than some of the other stuff, is the Jack-in-a-Box chapter with the little boy that has a crush on Kiri and is like known as Jack in the Box because he like springs out, and so then by the end he's like hopping around, at one point even on one leg. He's like hopping around chasing them because they went to make sure he was like still in his grave, and then because he dies like getting hit by a car, so then he's like a springing him from the car. And it's kind of funny, and it's creepy. Like, once again, we're talking some really creepy stuff. It's just also kind of funny. This is the page when they dig him up out of the grave, right? Like, that's creepy. Very, very creepy. Yeah, I don't want to like say too much because I really do think you are best exploring this on your own. Like, I really do think this is something best experienced with very few things being spoiled for you. So I don't want to say too much more. I've already shown some of the scarier panels, but I don't want to say too much about like what's actually going on or some of the big revelations later in the book, because I do think that you, if you're even slightly interested, absolutely read this. And yeah, I don't want to spoil too many things. I just really wanted to talk about how much I liked it and how fun it was, and this is my first real dive into Junji Ito's work. I've like seen panels of some of his other stuff. I've heard some other people talk about his work, but I really haven't, you know, delved too far into his work, and Uzumaki was one a lot of people recommended to me, but I just kind of never got around to it. And since I did end up picking it up and read it in like 2 days because it was really good, I thought, you know what, why not take a break from being grouchy about books I didn't like and talk about something I really did like. And yeah, short review. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!